Hello. We should be live. I hope everyone can hear me. Is it true? Are we live? I just tried out that new intro segment. There should have been like a wipe of some kind, and now you should be able to see us. I hope that is accurate. Welcome to everyone who has joined. I'll get the two people who are with me in the chat right now to see if the rest of the audio is working as well. So, Vienno, say hello.
Hello.
And Elrond, say hello.
Good evening.
Now, you might notice as well, watch this. Not only did I improve the weight screen with the beat, but I even improved the type chat. Yo, 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 yo. I'll type that in. Look, it should be more legible.
It is.
Nice.
Wow, you did it. It only took months and months to do some basic functioning for your stream.
Hey, listen, we all have our learning curves and figuring it out, so it's good. We're up on it. We're figuring it out. Even the other thing, like I could probably improve on some things, but Tony, can you hear the other two? Did I hit the right audio buttons so we can all you can hear everyone? Perfect.
Tony, can you hear us?
Nailed it. All right. Yeah, part of it is it's really annoying. I mean, not that everyone needs to know this, but like how OBS is set up, you can do these like scenes. So like I had the wait scene, and then I transitioned to the live scene, which is what we're observing right now. But then the mixer is the same for both, and so like I have to. There's no like easy way for me to just like click that I'm going to the live scene and then have all the audios like things adjust. I have to manually like unmute all the shit that I had muted. So I don't know. There's probably an easier way to do it. I just haven't figured it out yet. So, hence my weird apprehension that I did everything correctly. But hopefully going forward, I'll find a smoother way to transition into the show. But for now, we can jump right into the wonderful show where we're going to hit a few things first that are really light. Or I wouldn't say light. Light in the length of time we're going to spend on it. And then we'll delve into two longer-ish clips. So first thing we're going to talk about is this Derek Sloan stuff. Then we're going to talk about, I guess, Rebel Media just finally was found guilty of violating third-party election laws. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a conspiracy theory that David Menzies has that Justin Trudeau went on vacation during the winter break and just like secretly like hid it, and nobody found out about it until they magically figured it out. And so, starting off with this Derek Sloan thing. So for those who don't know, Derek Sloan was a Conservative MP. No longer a Conservative MP because it turned out that Derek Sloan received funding from Paul Frum. And for those who don't know, Paul Frum is a white supremacist neo-Nazi who I believe is in Hamilton, Ontario now, so that's fun. There was recent posting as well that Paul Frum met with Adam Skrelly, the dude who was like doing the barbecue rebellion when that was happening. So Paul Frum, he's been around for a long time. He's an old dude now, but he's been involved in conservative politics. He's also been involved in the Heritage. Why can't I remember their name? Tony would know this. What was the name of the neo-Nazi group? It was Heritage something that Mark Lemire was a part of. I know Paul Frum wasn't necessarily a part of them, but he was a Heritage Front. Thank you. He was associated with them in some capacity. And the interesting thing is when I was doing some of the back work in reading Ezra's Shakedown, and this goes to all the work that Art Canada did, Anti-Racist Canada, because they were blogging all the way back when this was happening. But Ezra was fighting all these free speech battles and what he was calling like free speech battles, and he writes about it in his book Shakedown, that these people were being brought to these human rights trials and how like terrible that was, but he never mentions who they were or what organizations they were for. And so like Mark Lemire was the leader of the Heritage Front, and Ezra even had him on his show, and Mark Lemire was buddies with Paul Frum, who also was involved with the Heritage Front, and Paul Frum was even one of the people that was being brought to the Human Rights Tribunal for crap that Paul Frum had did. And Ezra was defending them. So Ezra has a background with these people. I wouldn't say... At least Ezra is smart enough to know not to, like, be like, here's Paul Frum, my best friend. But he clearly defends them. Yes, Tony's like, strange bedfellows. It is a... isn't it amazing that all these people have connections with the Reform Party of Canada, like Ezra and Paul Frum both do, and then... Ezra goes to support for this Adam Scully person, and Paul Frum is right along there also trying to get, right? Like, there's these connections run deep, and they'll try to, like, avoid themselves. But anyways, Paul Frum donated a bunch of money to Derek Sloan. Now, from what I understand is there's some issue about whether he used his full name or not in the donation. And so, like, maybe, like, red flags weren't raised. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think Derek Sloan... would have looked into everyone who was donating to him anyways. But there's an element, because a lot of people are focusing on the fact of this idea that, like, Derek Sloan should have known who was donating to him, and then somehow, like, intentionally knew that he was receiving money from a neo-Nazi white supremacist. And to me, that's, like, besides the point. The point for me is Derek Sloan is the type of person that a neo-Nazi would want to donate to, which should be bad in itself, shouldn't it? I don't need to...
Well,
you can go
I
on,
think
Vienna.
on that, line of thinking as well, like, that Paul Frum has been an active member of the Conservative Party for many years. Like, that was a thing at all
Yeah.
is kind of like, why are the Conservatives going to get mad when, like, he was a registered member and voted in the, like, leadership elections and, like, all that other sort of stuff? Like,
Yeah.
you got Nazis in your party,
Yeah.
bud. Like,
Which is why, I mean, Derek Sloan speculates that this has a lot, like, his purging from the party has a lot to do with the Conservatives reacting to what happened on January 6th. Which actually wouldn't surprise me that, like, the Conservative Party feels a need to distance themselves from this right-wing stuff at this point. At least, like, the far-right elements. But you are right, Vienna, in highlighting that when distance is created and people start to forget about these moments, all of a sudden the neo-Nazis start bubbling up and the white supremacists start bubbling up, and they're all involved in that party. Which should tell you something. Canadian white supremacists know to go to the Conservative Party. But anyways, we won't talk too much about this. I mean, it's also relevant to highlight that, like, of course, Derek Sloan gets kicked out of the Conservative Party, and who does he go running to? Rebel News for an exclusive interview. Not very surprising at all. Now, they try to downplay the extent to which Derek Sloan would ever be a Nazi, and they do things like, so I guess... Derek Sloan is married to a person of color, and they have mixed-race children, according to Derek. And so it's like, part of this is like, it's that element of like, I can't be racist. I married a non-white person. But he clearly can be not only racist, but advocate for other policies that white nationalists and racists would approve of. That's just the way that it is. So that's pretty much all that the interview is. But the only reason I want to play it, and I'm going to play a small, tiny clip, is because there's other information that I think is relevant to the stuff that we cover, which is that Dominion Voting has put a cease and desist order on Rebel News and Ezra because they believe that Ezra has been spreading lies about their company. And we've already sort of like documented this. We did a stream where Keane went to a building in Toronto that housed Dominion and tried to connect them with another company that was in that same building, the Tides Foundation, and therefore said that somehow Dominion was related to George Soros, and that's somehow connected to the voter fraud that they believed exists in America. None of that's true. Like, a lot of the points there are all true, and we broke it down in a previous stream. You can go check that out if you want. But all we need to know right now for this little clip that we're going to watch is that right now, Ezra has received a cease and desist letter from Dominion, and so just watch this exchange. And with that in mind, watch. Just look how Ezra reacts. I hope. 1 second here. There we go. And it should be connected to the Discord for the both of you.
And of course, I don't agree with that logic, but that was essentially what came forward.
Now, I think I heard you say we are unaware of the vote count, or do you know how the vote split at the end of the day?
I do not know. I know that, again, I trust the process. We use some sort of a company, not Dominion Voting.
I was going to ask.
We use some Alberta company that's apparently owned by conservatives.
So, this probably isn't actionable, but it's just, you can kind of see how uncomfortable, at least, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into his laugh, but I feel like it's uncomfortable. We'll watch that again. Watch Ezra's face here.
Do you know how the vote split at the end of the day?
I do not know. I know that, again, I trust the process.
Sloan can be
we use some sort of a company, not Dominion Voting.
I was going to ask.
We use some Alberta company.
Look at that smile. Oh, my God.
That's the smile of a man who does not want to be sued.
Yeah.
just complete, like, oh, thank Christ, it wasn't Dominion.
He's just like, you said it, not me. Don't sue me. That's the vibe that I have. It's wonderful. That's why nothing else in the interview is interesting at all. But I wanted to share this because I thought that was fantastic. Tony in the chat says Derek Sloan wanted to criminalize anti-fascism. That does not surprise me at all. Another reason why Derek Sloan can be supported by white supremacists. All right, we'll try to move out of that and go to the next one. So, here's the other thing that we know. Let's pop that up. Oh yeah, I gotta share it with you guys as well. So we knew that Ezra was being investigated. And we knew that because he did a whole video of it. He does this thing that whenever he's being investigated, he brings a camera in and records the police who are investigating him and then always uploads it to YouTube to make a big scene about it. That's his big shtick. That's kind of how Ezra got famous in the first place, which was when he drew when he published the drawings of the Prophet Muhammad in his Western Standard. Then he got sort of like I can't remember what it would be called, but like somebody like brought a complaint to him. Brought a complaint to him, and so he had to go to the Human Rights Tribunal. And of course, when he sat down in the Human Rights Tribunal, he like filmed the whole thing and then uploaded it on YouTube. And that's why we have Ezra as big as. Well, I mean, not that he's huge, but like that was kind of like his claim to fame. What kind of like got him started on this whole thing. I mean, he was already a right-wing. He was involved in the background of a lot of conservative politics, but like that really made Ezra, I guess, a more well-known figure across the rest of Canada. And so he did it again recently, which was, it turns out that he was being investigated for violating third-party advertising laws, and we're going to get to what those are in a second because he brings them up in this video. But he was being investigated, and so he filmed some of that. Now, the investigation is over, and Ezra received in the mail convictions on 2 accounts. So how this works is it's like, they're not even that big. He got fined, in total, he has to pay $3,000, which is not a lot, really. So but he's gonna fight it. We'll get to that. But he got fined $3,000. So he's being found guilty and he's convicted, but it's not like he's going to prison or it's like, I mean, he's gonna talk about it as if like this was a trial that he couldn't be present for, like as if this $3,000 required like some jury investigation, where it's more on like the threshold of like a parking ticket, right? Like you go to court to fight the parking ticket that you already have, not not in the levying of the fine in the first place. But he's gonna complain about that. He was already an asshole, but then he could make money being more of an asshole. Yes, Ezra. I don't know. I mean, he was already grifting before then because he already had the Western Standard. And I know it was funny because, like, I think people thought that when he published the Muhammad cartoons, that it was an attempt to try to save his magazine. Because this suit, like, that was one of the final episodes of the magazine before it went over and had to, like, just fully become an online blog. But who knows? I can't be in Ezra's head. But we'll watch. So now Ezra has received the fines, and we're going to hear what Ezra has to say about his fines. Let me know if there's audio.
Late yesterday, I received this envelope by Priority Mail. It's from Justin Trudeau's elections commissioner. In it was 2 letters. I have been convicted of 2 counts of breaking the law, and I've been fined a whopping $3,000 specifically for comparing Justin Trudeau to Tony Soprano and for publishing a book that compares them. It's this book, which was the #1.
So, for starters, we'll just, like, he's trying to say that he was convicted simply for this comparison and the writing of this book. And so what do we call it? Libranos, and you could tell it looks like the Sopranos cover. What the media won't tell you about Justin Trudeau's corruption, right? What a beautiful book. I still would love, if anyone has a copy of this and wants to send it to me, I don't want to pay money for it, but I would love to read this book. So yes, if you have a copy, send away.
One Amazon bestseller in Canada, The Libranos. What the media won't tell you about Justin Trudeau's corruption. They convicted me under sections 352 and 353 of the Elections Act. Check this out from the conviction letters. It's actually the largest part of their rationale. I'm guilty, they say, because, quote, the book's title reference to Libranos, which was clearly designed to create an association between the name of a registered party and The Sopranos, a mafia-themed television show, and to link the party to corruption. They also say the drawing on the cover is an illegal election activity. It's based on the original poster for the TV show The Sopranos. They say that's illegal because it's too mean. Quote, drawings of the show's characters were replaced with drawings of the leader and other public figures of the party, unquote.
So, you notice how Ezra framed that as, like, they even cited that it was because it was too mean. Now, I don't know. I don't even know how this is saying it's too mean. It says the advertising message also contained an edited version of a graphic used to promote the show. Drawings of the show's characters were replaced with drawings of the leader and other public figures of the party. That's not saying the drawings were too mean. That's just like a description of what occurred. Now, of course, like any stupid Ezra clip that we've ever watched, you can read the rest of this and it becomes very clear what's going on here. Which is, so if you read the whole thing, we'll read the whole thing as an exercise in fun because this is pretty much all Ezra is going to talk about. It starts, during the 43rd federal general election period, Rebel News distributed lawn signs promoting Ezra Levant's book, Libranos, What the Media Won't Tell You About Justin Trudeau's Corruption. That contained an advertising message opposing a registered party and its leader. The advertising message contained the book's title reference to Libranos, which was clearly designed to create an association between the name of a registered party and The Sopranos, a mafia-themed television show, and to link the party to corruption. The advertising message also contained an edited version of a graphic used to promote the show. Drawings of the show's characters were replaced with drawings of the leader and other public figures of the party. In a Rebel Media video entitled The Rebels 2019 Federal Election Plan, emphasis added.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't use that title. That's probably a bad idea.
Rebel News directors stated that the signs are perfect for anyone who wants to show their opinion about the first prime minister in Canadian history to be convicted of breaking the law, not once, but on 5 counts. In tweets by @Rebel News Online during the election period, the sign's distribution was promoted by using the hashtag election43. A tweet sent on October 3rd, 2019 asked, "Why not get your thelebranos.com lawn sign just in time for election 43?" During an interview with investigators, Rebel News director admitted that the book's launch had been timed to coincide with general election. Finally, of note, Rebel News had previously distributed lawn signs promoting a book opposing a premier on the eve of a general election in that premier's province. So they had already been found guilty of doing the same thing, but in Alberta, during the Alberta premier election. So, what they're being fined for, if it isn't clear already, is not simply the writing of a book and comparing Trudeau to corruption, but the fact that they did it during an election without registering as a third-party advertiser. That is the sole point of this. But it's going to get breakdown a bit more. And then I've saved my favorite clip, which contains the quote that the people cited, that even back when we did our first episode on this, all the way back in September, which was like a month after we started the show, I had these clips all ready to go because I was like, he's not a good... He pretty much is breaking laws by doing this.
Figures of the party, unquote. The police say that's against the law, so I have to pay $3,000 in fines. I know you find this hard to believe, so I've put a copy of the 2 letters online at saverebelnews.com. Go there and read them for yourself. Now, these convictions and fines came as a surprise to me because the trial was done in secret. I was not invited to the trial. I did not even know about it. I was not allowed to send a lawyer to the trial because they didn't know about it either. This is nuts. I knew they were hunting me because they interrogated me a year ago, but I really just assumed they had dropped the whole thing because it was so crazy. Remember this, before the pandemic, last year I was summoned to Elections Canada, their headquarters, and 2...
So we'll get to the clips in a second. There's a sense in which he always does this. He did this with the Human Rights Tribunal thing too, back when he was being brought up over the Prophet Muhammad drawings.
Wait, sorry. What's this about some drawings? What?
Were you not listening 2 seconds ago? He published the drawings of the Prophet of Muhammad in Canada, and then a bunch of Islamic groups filed human rights complaints against him.
Oh, no. He probably shouldn't have done that either.
Well, I mean, back then, I wouldn't say he got away with it. Both groups who were bringing the complaints against him ended up dropping the complaint. And so he did the way that, because it's a quasi-legal body. So what it means is it's not like the Human Rights Tribunal's rule, like you're guilty or whatever. What they do is they hear both sides, get a bunch of evidence, and then come up with some sort of like restorative process. So it would be something like you have to apologize or make amends by doing this, and if you don't like that, you can then fight it through the actual legal system, right? So I mean, well, I say actual legal system because the way our system works, the human rights tribunals are a quasi-legal system. So it's not like you don't have to bring lawyers and all that fun stuff to the Human Rights Tribunal. And so similar with this whole thing and him saying, I didn't even get to have a trial. It's really annoying because it's like, as the thing that I read, I mean, those are the facts of the case. And he's not disputing the facts of the case. So it's not something that you like, you don't really need a trial for it. It's basically like, right. It would be like having a parking ticket. It's like, was your car parked here? Yes? Okay, you have a ticket. You know? But here's the thing: is he can fight it, and he says he is by the end of this. And if you fight it, that's when you get legal representation, and you can like fight it in court or whatever. At least how our legal system works when it comes to these fines, you know.
30-year veterans of the RCMP, officers who used to work on terrorism cases and drug cases and money laundering, things like that. They interrogated me for an hour. Now, I knew it was a setup, so I wore a hidden camera, and I turned the tables on them. Remember this?
I got a question for you. I've answered a few of your questions now. Have you investigated any of the other authors who published books about Trudeau at the exact same time as me? Have you investigated John Ivison's book or Aaron Ware's book?
There's over 24 books that were published around that period.
You haven't answered my question. Have you investigated John Ivison or Aaron Ware's books?
I haven't.
Have you?
I haven't.
Yeah. Is anyone in your office investigating any other books about Justin Trudeau or just the book that's critical?
I love the smile on his fucking face.
Rebel News Network Limited.
Oh, I know that. And I'm just asking you to confirm
But once
that
we're
not
done,
a single other loving book of Trudeau has been investigated.
but once we're done, if you believe that there should be complaints that are...
No, because I'm not a censor like you. I'm not a bully and a censor. I'm not a bureaucrat looking to justify my budget like you. I go out and earn my living every day, fella. You call in authors to grill them about a book criticizing your boss. Think about who you are.
We call the director of Rebel News Network Limited.
Yeah, who happens to be the author of the book. I think there's going to be a chapter about you two fellas in the next edition.
Oh hell, there's going to be an advertisement. Jesus.
I don't think I could do it. I couldn't do that job. I'd be cracking up every fucking day listening to that.
Well, it's like so. It's like levels of stupid as well because, it's an investigation, right? He's acting like he's already been convicted of the crime, in that scene, where it's like, the reason why you have investigations is so you can get to the bottom of the thing, so that we know whether or not you committed the crime, right? It's an investigation. But he's already like, this is a Kafka-esque trial where I'm being pushed around by bureaucrats, and they're just like, we just want to know what was your intent in writing the book. And the reason why they want to know the intent, I guess, like, I'll just let him finish it, because he's gonna get to the legal part, and then we can discuss why they brought him in to ask him these questions in the first place.
I specifically asked the cops if I could see the complaint against me, and they said no.
Oh yeah, he's gonna show this.
Can I see the complaint against me?
The letter that you received?
No. I presume that you're investigating based on a complaint, yeah.
Well, this is still part of the investigation, so we'll have to, once the investigation's been completed, the commissioner will have to make a decision, and at that point, he'll have to decide if that is releasable or not. It's not something that's usually is released, no.
So it's a secret complaint?
It's not a secret complaint. It's just a complaint that's part of the investigation. And to keep the integrity of the investigation right now, you'll understand that we can't share everything that we have.
I don't want everything that you had. If I'm here to meet a complaint, but you won't show me the complaint, how can I possibly meet the complaint? How can I possibly respond to something that you won't show me?
Well, though, I think the letter was quite clear on what the infraction is alleged, and this is what we want to clarify with you.
Well, did you generate the complaint, or was it from an outside party?
No, we didn't generate the complaint.
Okay, so
someone did not generate the complaint.
So someone external to your office generated the complaint?
That is usually the case.
Is that the case in this case?
Yeah. Yeah, we did not generate the complaint.
Okay, was it the Liberal Party that generated the complaint?
Can't go into that, sir.
So you won't tell me who the complaint is? The complainant is that the secret?
Yeah, no, not at this point.
So at what point do you tell me who the
commissioner is the ultimate responsible person for the investigation and how this is decided.
So how do I know what conduct is being complained about if you won't tell me?
They told
The stupid thing about that last question is he knows what conduct was complained about because he received the letter of the investigation telling him what he was being investigated for. Like, he doesn't need to know who initially... It would be like, if I, like, witnessed a crime, or say I had video evidence of a crime, and I give that video evidence to the police then, like, while they're investigating it, don't need to tell the person that they're currently investigating who, like, made the video, right? Because, like, who knows? Like, now you're at large, are you gonna go and kill this person who made the video, But the reason why he asked the question the way that he did is clearly he wants to paint this narrative like it was the liberals that complained. That's why he asked, did the liberals complain, right? Hoping to get some sort of answer there. And by them not answering, don't you look even more suspicious by not telling me? So it probably is the liberals who complain. When really it could have been anyone. Like, I knew that this was coming really close to breaking the law, and in fact it did break the law. And I'm not the Liberal Party of Canada.
Ezra's like whole thing in that when he's talking to the cops feels so much like a customer service interaction. Like,
yes.
Like, it feels like I am talking to somebody about like where an item is in a Shoppers Drug Mart, and they're just like, "Oh." But I looked
on the
there.
shelf,
it's like, no.
It said $3.99, and you charged me $4.99.
Yeah, like it just feels so much like that. I hate it. Like,
I know. As soon as you said that, I could relate to my years of customer service, and I know exactly what you're saying. Did you make the complaint? I wish I made the complaint. Then I could have, like, bragging rights or something. I did not. I did not make the complaint.
Not this.
I'm sure if I did make the complaint, Ezra would have sued me by now. Oh, maybe I should complain. We were joking. I'm not going to make this complaint either. But if somebody else wants to tell Dominion voting systems about the clip that I played earlier, they can go right ahead and do that as well. Sorry, Elron. It sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say I can't wait to see more of Karen Levant.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get any more. Oh, yeah, no, we got more coming, so here it comes.
Told me that I should have registered my book with the government like they do in China.
The knowledge that you would have or not have of the Election Act, the Canada Elections Act, when you are planning the book and the new third-party rules, because I believe there's some comments on your site as well about that, did you give any consideration of saying, maybe I should register as a third party for this circumstance, or maybe I shouldn't because of my interpretation of what I'm going to do? Or did you not make that determination?
Tim, I appreciate the question. Yeah, I absolutely did think about that at great length.
You want to share your thoughts?
Well, sure, some of them. I mean, I thought the day I register with the government to write a book is the day we no longer are the True North strong and free. And if Elections Canada's commissioners are stupid enough to prosecute me for writing, publishing, and promoting a book about an election during an election, then that's an important fight to have, because we need to roll back these pencil-neck bureaucrats and their blackface boss, and we need to remind them that we're still a free country. So I thought about it long and hard, Tim.
So that was...
That is a man sitting there going, yeah, we're going to find this motherfucker. We are going to find him.
But he did this in his Human Rights Tribunal as well. He does these like grandstanding remarks like, I'm fighting for freedom, and if the day that I register with the government to publish a book... Here's the thing is, he didn't have to register with the government to publish a book. He violated these laws by the way in which he published the book. Like, for example, announcing that he was published a book right? Because he never told anyone the lead up. He literally announced the publication of his book on the video that said, the Rebels 2019 federal election plan. So it's like, the election's coming up. Here's what I'm going to do for the election. I'm going to release a book that says Trudeau's corrupt on it. And then I'm going to create lawn signs that compares Trudeau's government to The Sopranos. So it's like, we're in the middle of an election season, and that's when you decided to purposely sell the book at this time and promote it with these lawn signs. Like, that's why you're getting, like, you could have written the book just like all those other people that he mentions. They wrote the book and they were perfectly fine and are not being fined by it because they didn't break any rules. Because, like, of course you're not going to get fined for merely publishing a book. The point is when you specifically, intentionally publish a book to coincide with an election period that specifically criticizes one party, you know? Now you're playing politics. Now you're a third-party advertiser, and you have to register. And the reason they want you to register is because, unlike America, sadly, we don't want unlimited campaign funding in our elections. You know, I don't even think
you don't want billionaires funding your elections.
No,
you don't want that.
Because
That's pretty fun.
I don't know who finances Rebel. I have a guess. I can guess who funds Rebel. But let's imagine that who funds them is the Koch family. And so they funnel a bunch of money to Ezra, and Ezra publishes all this literature criticizing Justin Trudeau, specifically during an election. Then that's the Kochs spending a whole bunch of money in our election without registering. And that is against the rules. I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but that's the point of these laws, right? So Ezra makes it sound like you need to register with the government to write a book. And it's like, no. They're trying to prevent huge corporations with bottomless pockets from just overloading our media networks to the point that, like, it like ruins our elections because now all we can focus on is what, like, billionaires care to focus on. And the thing is, like, we already have problems like that in Canada. Like, I'm not saying that, like, they're completely fixed, but, like, if you're going to get involved in politics and advertise for one side or the other, you have to register. That's just the rules. And you got fined for it, so deal with it. You got fined $3,000. It's not the end of the world.
It was a year ago, and I hadn't heard from them in about a year. I assumed that they had dropped the case after I published that hidden camera video showing what they had said to me behind closed doors, but I guess not. They were just moving at the speed of government really slow. So, you know, this is all illegal, in case you were wondering. The Elections Act itself says that books and the promotion of books, so ads, billboards, whatever, they're exempt from this creepy censorship. Books don't count as election advertising. Here's Section 2 of the Elections Act. Election advertising does not include the distribution of a book or the promotion of the sale of a book for no less than its commercial value if the book was planned to be made available to the public regardless of whether there was to be an election.
Can anyone see the fault? Like, what he's missing? Of why he violated the law? Take a stab at it.
Oh no. Is it that? Oh, is it that last line there?
It is definitely the last line. If the book was planned to be made available to the public, regardless of whether there was to be an election. So if you release a video saying the Rebels 2019 federal election plan and you create lawn signs all during a federal election because it's a federal election, and you announce to the world that it's because of a federal election, this exemption does not apply to you, Ezra. Oh my god. Like, he just reads it out loud. Here's the other thing is, he has a law degree. Ezra Levant has a law degree. Oh, I should have a law degree, because clearly I know more about the law than Ezra Levant.
So my book meets all those tests, and
No,
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't.
well,
of it is
how many people
exempt
have
under
you
the law.
sued?
Me?
Mhm.
How much money do I have? Give me some money. Maybe I'll be suing conservatives left or right. You don't know.
And of course,
Okay,
Section
how
2
much
of
you
the
need?
Charter of Rights guarantees my freedom of speech in the press too. So this is just Trudeau attacking anyone who embarrasses him, and they're themselves breaking the law. They're violating my rights.
Well, if they
I have to tell you, I'm not going to pay the $3,000 in fines. I'm sorry. I'm just not
Yeah.
going to pay the $3,000.
Why? Because he's a rebel.
I do not
Says
accept
so,
a
right there.
punishment for writing a book criticizing Justin Trudeau. There is not one factual error in the book. It's not defamatory. I know Trudeau.
Someone
hates
give me a
it,
coffee.
but
We'll find a factual
grow up
error in that book. I
and
guarantee it.
twit. I'm going to appeal these
It'd be
convictions
so
because
funny if they sent
obviously
him to
it's a
prison.
political setup and it's a sign of Trudeau's censorship plans to come. Just last week, Trudeau's government told the Globe and Mail they intend to set up an entire new government bureaucracy.
Yeah, I don't know if they would go to prison for not paying this fine. I do know, as I said, like, he's gonna get to it eventually. They're gonna like fight it, right? And so while he's fighting it, he won't have to go to prison. But my guess, if he loses the fight, if he continues to refuse to pay it, I wonder if eventually there would be legal ramifications for that in terms of prison term or something like that. Which my guess, if it gets to that point, he's gonna pay it under the on the sly and not tell his audience that he paid it, just to avoid going to prison. That would be my guess.
In charge
They
of
force him into
censorship, and
exile.
obviously,
Yeah.
their first target is Rebel News. They really aren't hiding it anymore. I'm going to appeal these illegal convictions, and I'm going to help other journalists, even though most other journalists these days are fine with censoring conservatives and are fine with cancel culture. I'm going to challenge the constitutionality of this entire law so that no other author will ever be interrogated by police and convicted in a secret trial and fined $3,000 for criticizing a politician of any stripe. That constitutional challenge is going to cost me a lot more than $3,000.
Sure is.
There's no way a constitutional challenge against the government will cost less than $100,000. But I'd rather spend $100,000 fighting for freedom than $3,000 paying off a bully like Trudeau. If you could...
So that's the end of it. He's gonna promote his SaveRebelNews.com, and that's his whole thing here. And I just want to flag this right now because I said this back when he released the footage initially of the interrogation with those investigators over this third-party advertising violation. I have a feeling. I have a distinct feeling. Now, again, not backed up by any evidence, so don't sue me. This is my grand conspiracy-minded speculation going on here. I feel that Ezra always... If you go back to my initial coverage of this, if you go find in our podcasts and find out when we covered this, I forget when this stuff initially happened. Maybe I'll look for it in a second and see which episode it was that I talked about this. But when they initially released that footage, my initial concern was he was doing this on purpose so that he would lose, so that he could bring it to the Supreme Court of Canada and try to challenge the Constitution on this in order to open the doors for what's happening in America right now after the Citizens United decision. And it seems like he's doing everything that I said I think that he was going to do, and it looks like he's heading in that direction. And I don't know how much money there's likely behind him supporting him to do that. Whether or not you're getting Coke money or people in the oil and gas industry in Canada that would love to repeal those rules in our country. But this worries me a lot. Now, I don't know if he's going to succeed because I don't think our court is set up in the same way that the American court is. I don't know what the exact, political distribution of our court is. Our courts have remained somewhat, at least, have the appearance of apoliticalness to them. Of course, I don't think that's actually true. Obviously, judges are going to have their political backing and they come from political backgrounds and all that fun stuff. But we don't politicize our courts in the same way that America does. So I don't know that he's going to succeed, but it worries me that he's trying to do this. And I would say just keep an eye on this And hopefully it goes nowhere. Hopefully they say you're an idiot, they don't even take the case, and he gets stuck having to pay $3,000. That is my hope. That would be best case scenario. But it does worry me that this is happening. Now, we're done with that. What clowns. What clowns. Now we're going to get to even more clownish stuff, of course. Let's see, where's a good place to start this? Oh yeah, it's like probably like right here. Yeah, perfect. And now I got to send it to you too. This one is just really silly. So after, because I realized we were going to do the more like heavier Rebel being fined $3,000 one, and this one is just super silly. I think I shared it with
And
both
then
of
we
you
get
this
some
was-
Menzies as a treat.
Yeah. You know. Oh,
We
Annabelle.
ate our,
Oh,
we ate our Ezra vegetables, and now we get some
so Tony,
Menzies dessert.
do tell us a bit about Annabelle, because this person was a character. I didn't. Annabelle is the person that Menzoid, the Menzoid, is interrogating here, and he's a character. He is a character. So let's find out. Let's find out what's the scoop. What's up?
Well, folks, during the Christmas holiday break, we knew that some people
Oh my God, his
weren't
hair.
necessarily staying at home, were they? And I speak, of course, of
His hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he like stuck his fingers in the outlet. Zzz. Again, I can't
Was it always
complain
that
much right now.
color?
Yeah, no, it's a reddish. He's a Irish boy, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He's a beautiful young man. Did he wake up on a park
Those are
bench
some
before recording
words.
this? I actually I would not be surprised. He was probably hanging out with Annabelle. Yeah, so very much not a reliable source. Yes, and we're going to get to that in a second, because he says some pretty fun stuff about his sourcing in this clip.
several MPs, MPPs, MLAs who jet-setted off to such fun-in-the-sun destinations as the Caribbean and Hawaii. But the question arises, what about the big kahuna himself, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? There is so much speculation out there that perhaps the Prime Minister himself snuck away for a little fun in the sun too. But is it true or false? Well, joining me right now to answer that question is Guy Annabelle of the Ottawa-based The Capital Voice. And Guy, I understand while many of us were taking it easy over the Christmas break at home, you were on your computer tracking flights into and out of Canada, and you have a theory that perhaps demonstrates that maybe some very
look at this
important
guy.
person in Ottawa took a trip to the Caribbean. Can you explain, please?
That's right, David. Thanks for having me on. Over the New Year's break period, especially focusing on New Year's Eve day, December 31st, we at a bunch of Patriots and myself took a task to track the equipment ID of the 5 government Challenger Series 600 jets on FlightTracker24.com. There was a lot of flights, a lot of high-end jets going in and out of the Caribbean, but we knew from our past research that the Canadian government jets did not need to fly with a to and from destination and embarking place. So we went...
All right. So, to catch us up, past research, yeah, Jesus Christ. Pat King was one of those Patriots? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I love it. Like, me and my Patriots just sitting at home looking at our computers, uncovering these government plots. And so what they did here is apparently they looked up, like, flight data and, like, were trying to trace these jets. Now, I can't follow any of this shit. I have no clue what the hell they're talking about. there is an interesting point that he makes here, which is that they couldn't track where they were coming from or going. So they don't have definitive data because they can only track these things vaguely when they're in the air. And so for one, I don't know that they've like nailed it. Like this is 100% a jet that Justin Trudeau was flying on, or whether it was like some other people. But they don't even know if the planes are coming from Canada. So
when they're tracking the planes, like most planes except for like when they're like high government or some military planes would have like data on their like flight plan, basically saying where they're taking off from and where they're going to. And so that's kind of what he's saying wasn't there. So you can still like follow the plane while it's in the air generally with like satellites and like other
right.
like radar bits. Because I remember, and like for example, a bunch of a year ago now, when it looked like we might be going to war with Iran, I was looking at like a bunch of flight tracker places with like the American boat planes. Damn, vehicles are hard.
Yeah.
With the American planes like heading towards the Middle East at the time, because they were bringing in a bunch of more troops to like Saudi and I think maybe Kuwait. So you could like I could still see where they were, or like whenever like the flight tracker Twitter people would like update it and be like, oh, here's where it is now, type of thing. So like hypothetically this thing would be possible, and based on like the types of people who are into really weird like radar tracking, it is probably right-wingers. So I don't like disbelieve that they might have the capacity to do something like this.
So the tracking is not the part that I have like the credibility gets.
Yeah,
I guess so. Part of what's happening here is there's many like steps in the reasoning, right? So for one, they're marking these planes. I for one don't know how they know that these like jets are supposedly Canadian, either military or parliamentary in some capacity. You know what I mean?
Like flight codes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So for one, they get the right codes that somehow these are planes used by the Canadian government in some capacity. Now you have to somehow get Trudeau on one of those planes and then somehow get a flight path at the specific time that they want heading to the Caribbeans, right? And so they have a plane that they think does this. Now, from what I understand from looking at other people who have fact-checked it, the one plane specifically that they think was carrying Trudeau, that he's claiming they don't have launch data for, so they don't know where it came from, actually originated from the United States, because it's for whatever purpose it is flying, it's not to escort Trudeau from from his home in Canada to the Caribbeans on vacation. From my understanding, that has been debunked. But here's the thing: is like I don't track this stuff, so like I'm not a nerd enough to like break it down for everyone here. It's just that it seems like other people who know better are just like, where are you getting this information from? Like you can't just like randomly choose government planes and then say therefore Trudeau could have been on it. You know what I mean?
And before it was in the U.S., it could have been in the Caribbean.
Could have come from everywhere. I will say, we're going to get to it. I mean, they never bring it up here, but I will say, another reason why it's not likely that Trudeau was on this plane. For one, the plane that they're talking about, I think, was on, like, January 4th. And that's, like, the last day of the time frame where there was, like, Trudeau was not engaging with the media because he was on Christmas vacation. But in the middle of that time period, when people would think that Trudeau was in the Caribbean, his wife, Sophie, produced an Instagram video with him of some kind that had the geolocation being Ottawa. So so during the time he was supposed to be on vacation in the Caribbean, his wife was with him making Instagram videos in Ottawa. For what it's worth.
But don't you see? They planned that ahead of time. They filmed that 3 weeks in advance.
Oh, Yes, Tony is saying this is bottom of the barrel. This really is bottom of the barrel. Like it's gonna get even more bottom of the barrel in a second.
With some information, the lack of information actually showed us on the flight dockets that these Challenger Series 600 jets leaving from Ottawa and also from Toronto going to States of Sun and Sunnyways Airlines on your dime and on your time. But who was flying the jets is in fact the big question, as we're seeing, David.
Yeah, and indeed, and you've taken screen captures, of course, Guy, of those planes on those flight paths. And, you know, I guess an obvious question to ask is, was that indeed the Prime Minister? Now, I should say, Guy, I reached out to the Prime Minister's office, to their media relations person, to ask if Mr. Trudeau took off during the holiday period. I'm afraid I haven't even received an answer to my query.
They got him. David Menzies asked the Prime Minister himself, and they didn't even respond back. It's guilt right there. It's total guilt.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got it.
Oh, I need that clip of the cops busting in the door.
And you'd think if the answer was no, they would automatically say so. So what other kind of evidence or what other kind of theory can we rely upon, Guy, here to indicate that maybe indeed Justin Trudeau was not in our great Dominion as he was warning everybody else to stay at home?
Well, I think the best evidence, David, lies on a couple of pictures that are circulating, and also
This is the best evidence. Could it be true?
Phenomenal.
Look at this.
Guys, Justin Trudeau and DJ Khaled on vacation together.
I can't breathe.
In Cuba, visiting Raul Castro, and they are planning to overthrow the United States government and declare world communism.
And that's the second shooter in the grassy knoll. This person walking in the background here. And there's a shark in the whatnot.
Yep.
Oh my god, this is the best evidence.
They're gonna go back in time, make sure JFK gets got.
Yeah.
also the picture of the two jets, Government of Canada jets that landed at 3:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on January the 4th in Ottawa. Its transponder went off at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Therefore, you could no longer track the flight because it had no to and from info. So you can only track these flights when they're live in the air. And that was, again, we had the pictures at Uplands and him being extracted out the side door at Rideau Road and Alert Road. He didn't even hit the terminal. He didn't even hit the reception center. Now, don't forget, David, that flight did take a stop in Toronto. So a number of ATIPs have been filed, and I'm sure Rebel will be filing one as well for the flight logs for the period in question, December 24th to January the 6th. Basically, we know at the cell phones lit up around 1:30, 2 o'clock. The famous canned photo of Justin in front of his computer at Rideau Cottage, I may add, where they said he was at Harrington.
So I love that he's automatically, this is a canned photo. I mean, who knows? He was just fucking chilling at one of his locations and did a Twitter thing. But no, it can't be real. It's canned photo because anyone can take a picture beforehand and then just release it. I love this internet sleuthing. This picture can't be real.
No, can't be. Can't be.
Trudeau with that ring light setup.
I mean, the books are clearly laid out in a way that spell I'm on vacation. It's like one of those things where Alex Jones says, like, the reason why the Illuminati leaves, like, the breadcrumbs is because they have to. Like, it's part of their, like, satanic plot that if they don't, like, show signs of what they're doing, then they're not really satanic. Oh, my
So
God.
a little bit of a mistake there by the press people at the PMO. And what we have now, David, is
No, again, like he thinks that that's a fake photo because he knows that this is a picture of Trudeau in one of his two residences, and at the time they were saying he was at the other residence. So therefore, this was like a canned photo that they released to make it seem like he was really home the whole time, but in fact he was at in the Caribbean.
See, and the thing is, like, he was, not doing work, so this probably is a photo from, when he was actually with all of his aides and everybody and not just, like, spending time with his family for the holidays. Like,
I mean, it's two things. It could be that he actually like went back to his other thing because it is quite possible that he had stuff over at his other residence that he needed maybe for something. I don't know. We don't know. I mean, that to me is way more like what you said is the most plausible. What I said is also plausible, and both of them are way more plausible than that they were like a secret ploy to throw people off the scent of the fact that he took a secret flight to the Caribbean and got caught on the beach with DJ Khaled. I love a super investigator Annabelle over here.
is a lot of speculation. We've even got some new photos of a beach shot of somebody who looks very close to Justin Trudeau being served by a masked server on the beach. And that is now circulating. I did not verify that. I did not obtain that. It is now going along the internet. But David, past behavior equals future behavior. And you said it in the opening, rules for thee and not for me. But we have the evidence. And
Did you catch that? He hasn't verified it. He doesn't know where it was obtained. But they have the evidence.
They have the evidence. They got it. They got him.
We haven't done our due diligence to find out if this is real. But it's evidence nonetheless. I believe it.
Trudeau executed for treason over Instagram photo.
Oh, what does that look
Patriots
on Annabelle's
win.
hat? Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's some... It could be like a Canadian Legion symbol of some kind. The eyeballs in that picture really nail it for sure. That's the thing. It's like such a blurry, like the person has like a beard that has like vague shading of Justin Trudeau in similar hair. But I would love it as well if the image was photoshopped.
And Rebel News is obviously the only real media company covering it. I tweeted
Rebel
out to
News
Glenn
getting to the
McGregor
bottom of
when
this.
he tweeted on January the 2nd, where is Justin? Can you confirm that where he is? And he's tweeted back out, I have confirmed with the PMO that Justin Trudeau is hunkered down at Harrington Lake amid wide speculation on Twitter that he is in the Barbados. Now that's where it really took off because the hashtag where is Justin Trudeau, interestingly enough, David, has been totally wiped from Twitter. Where is Justin and where in Justin Trudeau had over 5,000 mentions and retweets. It is now wiped off Twitter.
Wow, isn't that something? I mean, there's been so much, shall we say, impolite content wiped from Twitter in the last week for sure, Guy. But
Menzies doesn't look good. Like,
No.
something's off. I guess.
He's so old. Maybe he's having a stroke. It's not fun to mock. Oh, I wanted to do this now to see if I can see what we got here. I'm always nervous about pulling my Twitter out in front. I follow a lot of sex workers. I don't want just random boobs popping up here. What was it again? I want to hear what the hashtag was again. What was it again? Where is Justin Trudeau? Okay. Where is Justin Trudeau? Oh, hashtag where's Justin Trudeau? Well, I don't know what to tell him, because I'm finding there's some stuff here. Trudeau's Christmas vacation, flight travel. I want to say, too, this is amazing. You can barely make it out, but the Rebel News image says "caught traveling." Yeah, there's tons of people. I don't know what it's been wiped. It's been completely wiped from Twitter. Completely wiped. Here's more. Look at all these people. Completely wiped from Twitter. Wear a mask to prevent speaking.
gone.
Where is Justin Trudeau?
You can't find him. He's gone. Gone forever.
Completely wiped from the internet. Thank you, Annabelle. Superior research.
5,000 mentions and retweets. It is now wiped off Twitter.
Wow, isn't that so? I mean, there's been so much, shall we say, impolite content wiped from Twitter in the last week for sure, Guy. But you know, I've got to ask you. I mean, you say evidence. I should point out that right now it's all circumstantial evidence because we don't know for sure. And I'm going to give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt until we hear that. You are right. We will, as you have, file a Freedom of Information request. But another question.
Could you imagine wasting your time to do a Freedom of Information request for this? Like, like you would think that if the government was willing to go at the to the lengths that they're describing to cover this up in the first place, to I don't know, that they could find ways to not be able to leak this information. Like, oh my god. David, I'm sorry I've paused it there. Your beautiful face.
Question arises, Guy. Why, you know, we're asking these questions, you and your colleagues are asking these questions and putting in hours of legwork tracking these planes. Why isn't the mainstream media on this?
Well, I think we all know that answer, David. Bought and paid for. The parliamentary parrot himself, Glenn McGregor. Look, you know, he wouldn't even take a camera crew up to Harrington Lake. If you wanted to get rid of any speculation that Justin Trudeau was in the Barbados and he was actually at Harrington Lake, wouldn't you take a camera crew up there and do a shot of him frolicking in the snow with his lovely wife and kids?
Could you, like, imagine what he's saying here? He's like, well, why can't the famed photographer of the Prime Minister just go right in there and go to my beck and call to prove my wild and insane conspiracy theory based on this random Facebook post? Oh.
Why would the child of a prime minister who, you know, was very famously in the public eye along with his wife for, you know, years and years and years, and whose life was kind of fucked up by that, not want the fucking photographer to, like, follow him into the woods to be at their cottage with them when they're just trying to have a fucking Christmas together? Like, I wonder.
Oh, they could just prove it with one simple, like, it's like one of these things of, like, you know, granted, I don't have too much sympathy. He's the Prime Minister, whatever. He's Justin Trudeau. But, like, whatever. He took a few days off like the rest of us, and he's up in the woods. Let him chill out. But no, it's like, we need proof now. My internet sleuthing. I've been home all alone looking up flight records. I need proof. And even if here's the thing is, even if they gave him proof, do you think they would believe it? I think if honestly they took a picture or even did like pull out the newspaper, walk out on the front yard, or like whatever the hell they could do to like prove that it's today's date, look where we are, they still wouldn't believe it. They'll be like, it's a body double, you can see
Instagram live, and they declare it like proof that the Canadian government has hologram technology.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they projected an image of the winter in the Bahamas. And so therefore, yes, they're fact proof. They are fact proof. I mean, that's the thing. That's why, of course, they wouldn't release a picture just to, it reminds me of like, Elizabeth Warren giving in and doing the DNA test to a certain extent, which for those who don't know, so Elizabeth Warren, there was a huge controversy around the fact that she identified as Indigenous, Cherokee, I believe, and it was one of these like family legends that passed down through the family, and it turns out that she's not. At least the stories that she was told or whatever. And she had used her indigeneity on resumes and stuff like this. And to the extent that it helped or hurt her or whatever, it's pretty gross what happened. But then, so here's the thing, is she comes out acknowledging that, like, she could have come out and acknowledged that, like, this whole thing is, like, silly and it was based on, like, a family thing. But what she did, because you had people like Trump calling her Pocahontas as an insult because of the way that she identified. And she decided to do the really stupid thing, which was to take a DNA test to somehow prove something. Like, for one, as a scientist, like, a DNA test for this stuff isn't going to prove shit based on how DNA works. And it came out, like, that she was, like, 0.1% indigenous or something, which is, like, basically noise in the signal. It's, like, nothing. But the point is like, even doing that to be like, look, I have scientific proof that I'm Indigenous, it's not going to convince anyone. They still called her Pocahontas, and in fact it backfired. It like hurt her even more. So it's like, that's why it's like, when it comes to these things, you can't, the only thing to do is just laugh at these people, because you're not going to convince them with more evidence. Because like, all this stuff is, it's like the lack of evidence. Like, even when it came to the flight pass, we don't have all the evidence, but isn't that evidence enough? It's like all this stuff is, or like, I asked the Prime Minister if they were out of the country, and they never got back to me. But of course, if they didn't, they could have just easily gotten back to me. So that's proof that they left the country, because they never got back to me. So they're clearly hiding something. You can't win with this. So don't try. Don't even try.
I would.
You know, Guy, I have to say, though, if indeed this is provable in the weeks, the months ahead, maybe a year, there's so many delays in terms of getting around to ATIP requests in Ottawa these days. But if we indeed prove that the Prime Minister himself did this, I mean, you know, for goodness sakes, we've seen what's happened, the fallout for all these other elected officials. We've had resignations, we've had firings. What will Justin Trudeau say about this if indeed he was the person on that flight that landed in Ottawa on January the 4th?
And who did he drop off in Toronto? And there's a whole other questions around the other flight to Barbados, David, and one from the Bahamas. I think the overarching question is, who was using government jets on the taxpayer dime during a supposed lockdown period in which our eminent leader, Justin Trudeau, said to stay at home, stay safe, wash your hands.
We saw the Prime Minister convicted of...
The thing that I love about this is, like, there could be other... Who did he drop off? Big question. I love that they already, like, assumed that they're, like, he was on that plane when it landed in Toronto, such that... And why did they stop in Toronto? It must be for, like, these reasons. Like, the whole thing is just made up from ground up, and yet they're already believing that it's true and want... It was probably his father, Fidel. Oh, so they didn't actually fly to Barbados, which is what the pictures were showing. It was to Cuba, and they picked up Fidel and brought him back to Canada, which is secretly, we didn't know this, but Fidel is actually Canadian, and it's a huge conspiracy.
And also alive.
And alive, yes. He's actually he's been feeding off of whatever the ceremony in Bohemian Grove is that gives people eternal life. So he still looks 30 years young. I do want to say, too, is they're like, why? They're telling people to no longer travel. So why would this plane be where it was going? And here it is. Canada is still doing things in the world. Maybe we were delivering medical equipment to Barbados. Like, I don't know. It could be, like, many of other things. But apparently, the only reason a plane would leave Canada, well, actually leave the United States, and then on its way back stop in Toronto, is because it was the Prime Minister going on vacation, and for no other reason. It's not possible for it to be any other reason. If you're going to make something up, go big. Yeah, go big. It was aliens the whole time. What aliens? I don't know. It was the Raptors.
Of ethics violations, the blackface scandal, SNC Lavalin. I mean, for goodness sakes, the list just goes on and
That's our
on and
Prime
on.
Minister.
Where do you begin with the scandals? Yet he came very close to another majority government. I'm wondering, even if this is indeed provable, does this count for the proverbial hill of beans guy? The fact that he snuck off, or is the Canadian public so forgiving of this Prime Minister and of this Liberal Party that it's never mind?
Yeah, throw it on the pile. You know, we don't even have a properly functioning federal police department that would open an investigation for SNC Lavalin.
I know,
There was
like, that's why we
clear
needed
judicial
Annabelle on the case.
interference with regards to his actions and the actions of Gerald Butts in that SNC scandal.
Well, you know, Guy, we're going to have to wrap it here. Like I said earlier, I did reach out to the PMO and asked about his whereabouts. They haven't answered my question, so I find that setting off my spidey senses a little bit. And secondly, if indeed we prove in the weeks and months ahead that that was indeed Prime Minister Trudeau on that plane coming back from the Caribbean, I got to tell you, I can hardly wait to see him spin this answer. Parting question, Guy, what do you think he'll say if it was indeed him traveling, in terms of going away, that he wasn't clear on the rules, or he thought this was in the best interest of his family? I mean, I just can't believe it.
So before they get into this like canned response that they think Trudeau would make, there's like an element of like, I love that when all this is said and done, they then ask the question of like, would this have any like political ramifications? And then Annabelle is like self-defeatist, but like, well, nothing else has sunk him so far. Whatever. Then it's like, then why are you doing all this investigation if it's gonna have no political impact? I think it would have a political impact. I don't know. I think there is an element in which Trudeau has gotten away with a lot. Some of that has been different. I mean, like SNC Lavalin was one thing. We now have the We charity scandal, and all of that fun stuff that has happened since. But I don't know. We've seen how the other politicians have dealt blows who traveled during this pandemic. So my guess is it probably would not look good for him either. But I don't think he actually went on this trip, so we're never going to test that hypothesis.
Well, maybe I could give you a bit of intro. There'd be a lot of ums and ers, but David, you know.
So he made fun of Trudeau for ums and ers, and like in saying like that's how Trudeau's going to respond, right? But then listen to Annabelle talk immediately afterwards.
No, all kidding aside, we're in a very serious state in this country right now, and Justin Trudeau is definitely not serving the needs of Canadians with regards to his flagrant actions. And again, this is just throw it on the pile. This is just another one for the Trudeau scandal file. And again, will we ever know? Will maybe Ezra get a nice gray redacted thing back from the Air Force or Transport Canada that shows some of the facts, like he did on his excellent reporting on the Chinese troops in Canada? You know, where did we get the real news, David? We got the real news on Rebel News.
Yeah.
That's where we got the real news.
Bring me back
Guy,
on, David.
I want to thank you again, and folks.
But I love, like, I mean, just to dunk on this clown at the end here, too, of, like, I'm going to make fun of Trudeau not being able to translate English to French on the fly and use a lot of ums and ers. And then I'm immediately going to use my own ums and ers because I'm a old man who's not used to public speaking, such that I spent this whole Zoom call staring at the floor. Oh, yes, what a kiss ass. What a kiss ass. Annabelle, I hate to tell you this, but I mean, there was not a lot of content for me to grab this week, and so I went for this. But I was partly going, I don't know if I want to do it, because these both of these clowns are boomerish and bored. I mean, at least David tried to. David at least has those like, anchor energy of just like, we gotta bring it up. We gotta bring that energy up. And so he tries to sell it. So kudos to David Menzies for trying to keep us interested. But like, God, Annabelle, what a snore. What a snore. And please learn how to collect evidence much better. Don't just find random pictures on the internet, please. And that's it. We're done. We're done for the Friday stream. Ken could not make it tonight, so that's why you didn't hear them in the chat today. Let's shout out to Ken. I like the crazy hair Menzies is bringing to the table. It's definitely a new look. Yes. I would, I approve. Like, I've got my own, like, crazy... I need a haircut right now. I've got these, like, flaps hanging out here. I can see it every time I talk and it wiggles around, but I need a fucking haircut. You could donate to the Patreon over there if you want to. I'd appreciate it. We're trying to improve. I hope the intro thing improved, and I don't know. I think the chat was much better. I like that it's showing up on the screen the way that it is. It's much more clear. It sticks out. I can read. I had to cut my own hair the other day. It sucks. Yes, I can at least get my wife to do it for me. We have like the clippers or whatever. It's just for whatever reason we've been busy with the kids. Well, what it is the kids exhaust us, and then we don't have time to do anything. Love the kids. They're just exhausting. Which is actually why, if anyone wonders why I'm always 8 o'clock, it's because that's usually when they're in bed. Although my son is wide awake singing. So it's probably coming up on the stream, but I don't care. Whatever. That's what he does when he's laying in bed. I don't know. But if we're done, we're going to see if there's anyone to raid here. Oh, we got Famous in Horses doing Dungeons and Dragons. We got Post Revolution is apparently doing Sid Meier's Civilization. Or let's raid the Serfs. Why not? They're a bigger channel, but should be fun. But the Serfs are good people. I think they recently got kicked off YouTube, I think. I don't know if they're back on or not. So that sucks. Send them some love. And yeah, tell people to sub to Imperial News. Because I want to start creating emotes. We're 13 people away. Tell a friend. Get another person to follow just so I can start creating emotes. I'd appreciate it. And Vienno and Elron, if you want to say goodbye. If either of you are still there.
I am here. Goodbye. Thank you for the stream.
Good night.
And have fun. Enjoy life.